Hello Linwood, welcome back to my garden. I'm Marnie with Growing Roots Together, and today we're going to be talking about pesky pests and garden threats. It looks like summer here in the garden and the pests know it and they've all shown up to the party. So today we're going to talk about a few pests, but first we're going to kind of talk about what sort of gardening practices can help reduce the impact of pests. So right off the bat, the first and most important thing is healthy soil, and I know I say that all the time, but healthy soil and healthy plants is where pest prevention starts with. So keeping your soil full of organic nutrients helps the plant to be healthier and get off to a good start. And of course, having healthy starts and healthy plants makes them less susceptible to pest damage and disease damage. So oftentimes you'll notice if you plant 4 things, one of them will be the first to go to pests, and that's usually the weak one. So one of my other tips is to plant enough to share. So make sure that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket, so to speak, and that you're planting enough things so that you can lose 1 or 2 to some pest damage. And a lot of things, once they get established, can take some pest damage. So it's not life-threatening to some plants to have a few holes in the leaves. It just means you're using organic practices. Another tip for pest prevention is to be a pest detective. It's kind of fun to go out and inspect your plants, and it helps if your garden is close by where you see it every day so that you can notice when things start to look off or things aren't growing very well. So, inspect the plant, look high and low for the damage causer. Sometimes it can be lots of different things and not pests. It can be overwatering or underwatering, or your plant can have some pests on it, but there can also be some beneficial insects. For example, when a plant gets covered in aphids, it tends to draw the ladybugs to it that eat the aphids. So if you have both on a plant, it's going to take care of itself eventually. So you don't want to disturb the ladybugs or the aphids at that point, because ladybugs can eat a lot of aphids. So you want to do as much as you can to attract ladybugs and attract beneficial insects. So in my garden, I use a lot of interplanting and intercropping. I also don't pull things out of the garden right away or cut them back right away. So for example, in my garden, you'll see a lot of bolting or flowering produce that overwintered. I leave it. It's got all different sizes and colors of flowers, so it brings in lots of beneficial insects to the garden for lots of diversity. One of the busiest garden pests right now seems to be the cabbage moth and the cabbage, well, sometimes called the cabbage butterfly, but it's a moth, and it likes to lay its eggs, and the larvae eat your plants. So one way to prevent the cabbage moth from finding your plants, like brassicas tends to be what they cabbage, brassicas, all the brassicas, broccoli, cauliflower, kale. If you notice holes in the leaves, that's usually the cabbage moth larvae eating away at your leaves. So one way to prevent them from finding your cabbage, broccoli, and cauliflower, etc., is to cover it with row cover. So this is a fabric row cover. It's sold in a roll, and you just cut it to size. So underneath here, as I started noticing the damage, I covered it a little late, but as I started noticing the damage, and after I picked off the little green friends, not friends, from the underside, I covered it with this row cover. So if you don't want the aphids to eat your vegetable, if it's not on a trap crop like dill or this fennel here, another way to help reduce the numbers of aphids and hopefully give your plants a break is to just spray them with a really heavy stream of water, like a couple of times a day, and just spraying. I'm not going to spray my fennel because I use it as a trap crop. Dill as well. I just plant a lot of dill kind of interplanted throughout the garden, and then I usually get some dill plus the aphids get some. But yeah, and if you have a small amount of aphids on a stem of something like something food crop that you want to keep, you can always just hand removal or hand squishing works as well. checking the underside of the leaves. They're generally down at the base on the stem or on the underside of the leaves. So do your pest detective work. Use natural pesticides sparingly and only as needed for extreme cases. Things like sluggo or slug and snail bait, neem oil, and diatomaceous earth can all have unintended consequences for beneficial organisms and insects. Thanks for watching. I hope you have some new tools and tricks for dealing with pests in your garden. Stay tuned for more videos and check out the other videos on the City of Linwood's Garden Resources page. We'll see you next time.